Say a little something. Well, you know, when you that. Oh, okay, I was gonna say he's getting pulled in different directions. It's all good. Okay, you can take this one. Yes.
Hello, can you hear me out there?
Yo. This one.
Hello. I want your undivided attention. Ron Scott and I go back many years. We were both young people, but there was a history about Ron. I didn't know myself that he was a founding member of the local Black Panther Party. The history of Detroit is very rich, and some of that history is with us today. But let me stay on course. In 1965, in the Detroit area, there were museums dedicated to the arts and sciences, to local and national history. Many of these museums were financed by private funds, donation from government, but none of those museums preserved or recorded the history of African people. The Museum of African American History was founded in 1965 by a group of students who met at Wayne State University. Dr. Wright would later take over that organization and bring it to where it is today, which is a pitiful comment on Africans as it relates to preserving and recording the history of our people. I worked at that museum for 10 years, from 1970 to 1982. During that time, I saw that there was a void in the history of African people in America. So in 1985, my wife and I founded MBAD, ABA African Bead Museum. In 1996, with Ife Bess, Sonia Lockhart, Chris Woodard, Frank Costin, and Larry Mitchell, we founded our first African Bead Museum here in the state of Michigan. I was located in the David Whitney building at the time. I had a dispute with the owner of that building because my awning had an African pattern on it. She asked me to take it down because it didn't go with the decor of the building. I refused. Later, I was out on the street. Kwame Kenyatta and a couple other brothers from the community moved us to this present location. It was bleak. It looked real rough over here. People were saying, why would you go there? I said, if we build it, the people will come if it has the African essence in it. It has taken 13 years for us to get the magic formula of creating a place that African people would be proud to come to, and it would not be stereotypical. We have arrived. I personally want to thank you for coming out today and being a part of a milestone in the history of Detroit. This place is called MBAD, ABA African Bead Museum, where African Town begins. But guess what? Everyone referred to it as African Town. To me, that's the greatest accomplishment that could occur, is when you take a name and create your own name out of it. This is African Town. Our programs are free to the public. We have an installation behind us that spans over 500 years of history. We have crossed the bridge and connected Africa with Africans in America. This installation that's standing behind me is symbolic for the point of no return. Every installation out here is supporting and communicating the history of African people. We have an African wall across the field. There are 28 scripted African languages that were written prior to the 1800s. We have a middle passage The perimeter of this installation houses the Middle Passage. For those who do not know what the Middle Passage was, it was a situation that Africans crossed the Atlantic Ocean. There were three things that occurred. Some of the Africans jumped off, some of the Africans was thrown off by the ship captain, and others were thrown off if they were sick. But sharks would follow that ship from Africa to America. We cannot afford to forget about the journey to which we have traveled to get where we are today. If you look at us, you cannot see the pain and sufferings that our ancestors have went through to get us here. This museum have people from all over the world coming here to see what's going on here. It is the essence of Africa. It took a long time for me to figure it out. Iron. The installation is called Iron Teaching Rocks How to Rust. So what's so significant about iron? Our ancestors, over 500 years ago, said that iron had magical and medicine. What exactly does that mean? And each and every one of us here, there's enough iron in us to make a 3-inch nail. Iron holds the blood cells together. A woman has to replenish her iron at least once a month in her reproduction years. This planet is a big ball of iron. We have a magnetic field around us because of iron. Whether we know it or not, there's a personal relationship between us and iron. Wood. Without the wood, we would not be able to breathe in this thin layer of air that we are breathing here today. The planet could not exist without wood. Rocks. Iron is concealed in rocks. That's the basis of this installation here, is Iron Teaching Rocks How to Rust. Now, if you are rusting, it means that you have completely lost your culture. Rust is a state of deterioration. It is important for all people on this planet to remember their primary objective is to reproduce and also hold on to their cultures. We are at quite a disadvantage. I am communicating to you in English. Every word I know is English. Let's not undermine the importance of this prison that we are in, speaking our former oppressor's language to trying to free ourselves. It's a very difficult thing to do. Any conclusion we reach is based on English. We got to get our children back to studying African languages, and they can do it. Thanks again for coming out, and let's have a good time.